Good. I see the front row is empty, so the press must be occupied in some other stories of the day. But this is a good one. Nice to see you, Delegate. Nice to see you, Senator. Delegate, Senator, Delegate, 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 Senator. You know, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I hope everyone's been enjoying the recent heat wave. You're starting to see the ice melt a little bit. You know, before discussing today's main announcement, I want to take a moment to recognize that this Sunday marks 1 year since the devastating flood that struck southern West Virginia, including McDowell County. And obviously that's a tragedy that claimed a number of lives. It displaced families, and it really tested the strength of the entire community. We remember the people who were lost, and we pray for their families. We also want to honor the resilience of the men and women who chose to rebuild rather than just give up, right? And you guys know about that. We've spent a lot of time down there talking about these issues. You know, ahead of the anniversary of this flood, I want to talk about some improvements that we're making that really going to have a positive impact on southern West Virginia and the whole state. And we're working on several fronts to safeguard residents against the next flood threat. But we also have some exciting announcements to start in a topic that I really like. It's not always the sexiest of topic, but you know I like talking about water and sewer. Water and sewer projects. I'm a believer that if you get the fundamentals right, great things happen. And I'll say it again. Site selection and remediation, water and sewer, good roads, safe bridges, investing in our people in terms of the skill sets they need to succeed in the next 25-year economy. There's so many fundamentals that you can do right. And when you get the fundamentals right, naturally business starts to develop. And so I'm excited about that, and I've been challenging our team every single day to come up with new ways to have more and more water and sewer projects, right? That's what we're working on. So they come from different sources. It might come from some of the economic development funds that we have and water development or the AMLR grants, but we literally have been trying to push as much into water and sewer as we can. So today, we emphasize clean water again. It's important, especially in McDowell County, southern West Virginia, and it's important in our efforts to attract more people to our state, attract jobs, build homes, and grow. And you better believe West Virginia is ready to grow. We've got some big announcements coming. We've had a few over the last month, and we're going to have more and more coming very, very soon. It's an exciting time to be in West Virginia. And part of the reason I know it's exciting is we've had a really good run since October. We're not going to thump our chest until we're very high in the economic rankings, but we are making progress. Since October 1st, we've had over $6.5 billion worth of investment announcements. That's projected to lead to over 7,000 jobs. When you further add the monies that we're going to get through the Rural Health Transformation Fund, which is close to $1 billion, and you add the dollars from broadband, which is $546 million, we're talking over $8 billion and over 8,000 projected jobs. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. We're going to have a need for 15,000 to 20,000 new construction jobs coming up over the next number of years. Those are jobs where people are going to need electricians, we're going to need plumbers, we're going to need sheet metal workers, we're going to need people with the right skill sets. And let me tell every West Virginia child, if you're watching this, I'm not sure how many kids are watching governor press conferences, but if you are, you're going to have a great job opportunity in West Virginia, good paying jobs, and so we're really thrilled about that. So we're excited about the future, but we need to keep focusing on the present and the investments in the fundamentals that help West Virginia grow. That brings me to today's announcements. Today, we are announcing 5 important infrastructure projects totaling $9.5 million in AMLR grants that's going to support the growth that we intend. Now, these specific projects, we went back and forth with a number of people within water development and DEP and all the right folks to ensure that they met all the requirements. And we're excited about what we're going to do. Now, you see that there are a couple people from McDowell County here. Now, McDowell County got hit really hard with the flood. We know that. You know, we think about McDowell County and the people of that county all the time. We know that Mingo County was hit as well. We know that all parts of West Virginia need help, and I'm committed to it. You saw we had a Greenbrier announcement. We have a lot of other announcements here. We're going to keep rolling these out because I think West Virginia needs clean water and safe sewer water, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's get to the announcements. Ready, McDowell County?
Yes, sir.
We're going to start with funding the town of Davie sewer project with $2.7 million. It's a pretty good start. This is going to create the town of Davie's first centralized wastewater system, eliminating raw sewage discharges and replacing failing septic systems. That's a good start. In McDowell County, we're also investing a little over $2 million in the Jolo water line extension project. That's going to install more than 60,000 feet of new line and provide reliable drinking water to underserved communities. We think that hits another 120 or more people, and it's going to include a number of businesses as well. Another McDowell project. It's a big day for McDowell. City of Gary. We're providing $1 million for a sewer upgrade project that's going to strengthen the system, and it's going to help protect reclaimed sites within city limits. And then we have one more McDowell project. It's a $2.5 million investment in the Elkhorn Creek water project, and that's going to extend public water to 280 customers. That's going to include Ashland Resort, area churches and businesses, and that's going to support infrastructure in that area. Also, we have a very important initiative in Mingo County that we're announcing. The Kermit water storage tank replacement, $1.26 million. That's going to replace the town's failing tank with a new 125,000 gallon tank. I think this is what economic development looks like. It's not the sexiest, but we're trying to keep the money focused on the things that matter. Clean water matters. Basic infrastructure matters. We're working on the fundamentals here in West Virginia, and I think the more we do it, the better off we're going to be. It's not always going to be flashy, but it is going to make a big difference. It's about clean water, and we all know we need clean water all across West Virginia. If I haven't made an announcement in your county today, don't you worry, I'm working on more and more. I know there's a process that you go to make sure that we're doing this, quite frankly, on the basis of the need of the communities. And sometimes that takes a little time because you have to do the engineering study, you have to do all the back prep work to make sure that we can go in and we can invest and have success. But that's what we did here, and we're really excited. Pleased to be joined by the McDowell County Commission today, and I know there are a number of people here today who would like to say a few words. I'm going to let Commissioner Brooks start and say a few words because I know we've worked together on a lot of initiatives. Commish?
Yes, sir. Thank you,
Nice
Governor.
to see you.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to say it's an honor to be here today, just to be able to be a small part in the receiving of these grants and these awards for the good people of McDowell County. A lot of these projects have been a long, lengthy process that sometimes the general public doesn't understand, and we realize we got a lot of people's upset. We need water today, and with these funds and these grants that we're able to see our PSD be able to get some shovels in the ground, and a lot of the folks in our county being able to receive some much needed infrastructure upgrades. And with that, you know, we as a commission, Commissioner Patterson, Commissioner Dotson, we are very thankful with our partnership here with the governor, always being willing to let us bend his ear as well as he bending ours. I know sometimes with the governor's responsibilities and the job that he has, a lot of times you have a lot of negativity. And I say this all the time at home.
For me? Come on.
Yeah, unfortunately. There's never been a time that we have called the governor's office, whether it be Mr. Buffington or others, that we have not received a return phone call. And I do believe with all my heart that the governor is sincere and wanting to do all that he can to help the good people of McDowell County and especially southern West Virginia. And for that, sir, we say thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys want to say a few words, or no? You good? You want to say a few words, please?
Commissioner Brooks, he also discussed our PSD, and I assure you, McDowell County PSD is working extremely hard. They was out late last night just to focus on Crumpler, and we appreciate the governor so much for what he does for us. There's always a line. We always got communication with the governor, and we really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming. And Delegate, thank you. You've been a tireless advocate for McDowell County. And Senator, I got to tell you, you have been a big advocate for McDowell County as well. When I spoke to you recently, you've talked about all the different initiatives. I spent time with you in Wayne County with some of the challenges that we had there. So I'll tell you what, Mark Maynard is doing a very good job for the citizens of his Senate district. And thank you, Delegate. You got a lot of good people here that are doing good, hard work for the people of our state. You know, we're here today and we're talking about water projects, but we also know that there are problems with flooding. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about that because with the anniversary of the flood coming up, I will tell you this year we wanted to be even more proactive. And it's always better to put in place systems to save lives and to warn people before the problems come. And that's what we're trying to do in this year's session. We know that flooding is an all too frequent occurrence, not just in southern West Virginia, but all across West Virginia. And the challenge we found is not just water, but it's time. And a lot of times in these situations, when I've gone on site, you can see that minutes really matter. I remember when I was up in Ohio County, and I went to Triadelphia, and I was up there a lot, and I watched the area that filled up, and the water comes and moves so fast. And the same in McDowell County. You can see the water comes up, and before you even know it, the water's over your head. It's a serious problem. And I went back and I looked at the flood resiliency plans that started back in the early 2000s, you know, and I got a little bit better educated. I'm not going to tell you I'm an expert, but got better educated by a number of our people, including our Adjutant General and our emergency management folks who are here today, the good work they're doing. And, you know, the first rule of thumb for flood resiliency, as people are celebrating Resiliency Day, is to save lives, right? First rule is to save lives. Well, that's what we're trying to do. That's why, you know, in this year's State of the State, I announced a pilot project called Sentry. It's the Smart Environmental Notification Threat Response System. And the goal behind Sentry is to give people more time, to let people know before the water rises up at that speed. There are telltale signs that allow you to better know and perhaps get those extra minutes and save your life. We've designed this as a 36-month pilot project, and with this project, we're trying to leverage artificial intelligence, data interpretation, and advanced environmental monitoring in key areas to provide more enhanced warnings for the state. And here's the concept in plain English. Traditional streams and river gauges, well, they can tell you when the water's already high, right? That's useful, but it's often a lagging indicator of what's needed. Sentry is trying to get out in front of the problem with leading indicators, more sensors, more data, and better modeling, so we might be able to recognize the risk before people die. and you get to communicate it back to people a little bit quicker. Sentry is going to expand environmental monitoring with additional rain gauges, soil saturation sensors, wind data, and stream gauges. That's real-time information that, when combined with historical data and used AI-driven modeling, is really going to help provide that timely information. This is a pilot, so we're going to try to learn throughout this project, but the goal is to forecast elevated flood risk 1 to 6 hours ahead with a target accuracy of over 90%. Now, last year, we had at least 12, depending upon how you count it, 13 deaths from floods. What if we could have saved just a couple lives? I think that's well worth it. And so we want to engage in that. And that early warning, that's going to make all the difference. A pilot, well, that's how we're going to learn. That's why we're looking at a number of the different places where the flooding is most prevalent, and that's where we would anticipate the Sentry project would work. Now, we recognize this isn't perfect. That's why it's a pilot. Some sensors might work better than others. We're going to learn information. But I think we have to engage in this project and take a shot to use the technology to help people of our state. And I know there are a lot of calls for studies, and we did a number of studies last year that we funded. We fund them out of civil contingency, not flood resiliency. Same point. We funded them. There are resources available for the Milton flood wall, and we're making sure that that money is kept aside. And so we know that there are going to be projects, but saving people's lives, well, that should be at the highest end of the list. So I'm pleased to work with the legislature to make this Sentry pilot a reality. I think as we go forward with this and validate performance and assess risk, it's going to make a big difference for West Virginia. Now, we know in West Virginia preparation isn't optional. That's what this is all about. We want to get in front of the next flood, and we want to get in front of the water challenges that we face. That's why we're talking about Sentry today, and that's certainly why we're talking about water and sewer. We want to make a difference. We want to get out in front. We hate the fact that some people have challenges with water. I want to do my best to fix those problems, and I thank the legislature for working with us to provide us with the resources and the tools to make that happen. We're going to keep going, and I'm just so grateful to be here today. It's exciting after all the challenges that you've been through to know the progress we've made with the roads, right? Where we spent a lot of time at that. Delegate, you know that. And now with a lot of the water issues, let's keep going. Let's make more progress. And let's make West Virginia have the best water and sewer around. So thank you all for coming, and I'm now happy to answer any questions from media. Yes, so there are going to be 6 or 7 different places. I don't think we've announced all of the sites yet, but we're trying to do this in the areas most prevalent for floods. And so obviously if we succeed on the pilot basis, that can be extended to different parts of the state as well.
And did you ask for, I believe, $6 million for this, or is it
No, I think it's either 10 or 12 million if I recall correctly. So, but that gets us, I think that's going to get us around 7 or so. Don't quote me on that, but I know that we have a number of pilots that we can move forward with. And this is over a 3-year period, by the way, because it takes a little bit of time to get this going, but we're hopeful. Other questions from the media? All right. How are you? Good, good.
How are legislative, how is that going so far? Have there been bills for this flood resiliency project, and where is that going?
Yeah, I mean, I've been having conversations with them. I think there are a lot of questions. I had some meetings yesterday where people had questions, and we're going to be able to put some of those delegates together with our emergency management team, with our adjutant general and our National Guard folks. They really worked very hard on that. So I'm encouraged. We're still talking about this. Sometimes people have questions about the technology, you know, what's best able to work, and we want to work through those. But look, we're in day 31. Everything's alive. And I think, you have a lot of legislators here today, and I would get their take on it, but I think there's general interest in different ways that we can save lives, right? I think every delegate and senator cares about that, and we're eager to answer any technical questions that come up.
And do you know how long it would take to set up something like this once you have the funding?
Well, we know the pilot's meant for 3 years. Matt Blackwood, how long is it going to take to set that up?
Well, we would be using the 3 years, so we would hope to get things up and running very quickly and then have several months or years to evaluate it, to refine the modeling. So it's going to be an incremental thing. We're going to start building it out and then test.
How long would it take for one, so if you're doing the first site, how long would that
The
take?
first site, if we had the site, we had the equipment, that could be done in a matter of a day or two.
Oh, okay, so that answers your question. Any other immediate questions, Charlie? I think you had a question.
Yes, there have been several, also water quality issues, oil spills and
Yeah.
things like that. What are you doing to help, those communities who are facing those issues?
Sure.
And help prevent water contamination and water quality issues?
Absolutely. So everyone is familiar with what happened down in Wayne. I went down there, spent some time. I know Senator Maynard was at that meeting. I think it's really important that we're always staying ahead of some of the problems right now. And for example, in Wayne County, we're investing, I believe, between $30,000 and $50,000 trying to help from a technical perspective so they can assess the status of their water systems, right? And begin the process of getting a report of what's needed, to make sure, no, we're not going to have pumps break or we have the backups that we need. Because it's been a very challenging time for the residents of Wayne County. That kind of goes to what I'm talking about with these water systems, trying to get on top of it to really know what the status is and do it based on needs. Because when I first came in and I became governor and I would sit down with the folks at Water Development Authority, they'd give you this list and I'd say, well, what's the most important one? And they'd say, well, these are just the ones that came in, right? And we'd have to go through and say, well, wait a minute, I want a little more detail, because just because someone comes and shouts the highest, maybe that's an important one, maybe it's not, compared to the ones that really need the help. So we're trying our best to get input from the communities about the water projects that are needed. The other day, you may have been here when we announced a sewer project in Worthington, up in Marion County. And that was important. And the reason that came to my attention is Delegate Phil Mallow came in. And I'm going to tell you, he made it a really big priority. We got educated. All the backup work was done. And lo and behold, a year later, we have that announcement. So that allows the engineering work, the survey work to go on. You don't snap your finger because you have to figure out how many people you're going to serve, what the cost of the project is, and, obviously how old that project is, what the forecast is for the future. So we're doing everything we can to try to work in advance with folks. And obviously, we have to be very fast dealing with spills. I think our DEP has been very aggressive, reacting to the acts of vandalism that were out there, and they get out there quickly. Now, I'll tell you, when you have really cold weather and the river and the waterway ices up, that can complicate it. We know in one of those situations, the boom broke, and that's what you're using to keep at that point, the mineral oil from flowing further. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're prepared for difficult circumstances, but sometimes in the ice and the cold weather, it's very, very difficult, or you can't get through the water. So we just try to work proactively. We have our team at DEP, our team at Department of Health and Emergency Management try to eyeball this. The moment it happens, we try to act. Other questions from the media?
We're at the halfway mark of the legislature.
Yeah.
Big ticket items, tax cut, employee pay raise, where do you see we are with that?
Listen, I am wildly optimistic of our ability to work together with the legislature to have great things happen. I look and I see what some of our neighbors are doing, and the fact that you have Ohio that's trying to get an income tax level down to 2.75 when we have a high end of 4.82, and you have Kentucky trying to get to 3.5, and we had a high end of 4.82. I know to compete we need to do a lot better, right? And so I've been working and talking with the House and the Senate and key people to make the pitch that we need a 10% across the board income tax cut. And I've had a lot of good meetings. I won't talk about all the specifics within the meetings, but I've had a chance to talk to a lot of members of the House and Senate and field questions, and I'm very hopeful. I can tell you this, I want to work collaboratively with the House and Senate because the stakes are too high, right? And I think we can get all that done. We can get the tax cut done, and certainly we can afford the pay raise. We built it into our budget, and I'm optimistic that's going to happen as well. So it's a lot of good stuff that's pending right now in the legislature. We have a number of education initiatives that we're really excited about that could be needle moving in terms of reading comprehension and to provide tutoring for kids. I think that's terrific. We've got $100 million that we set forth to deal with roads and infrastructure. I don't think that's terribly controversial with the House and the Senate. So we've tried to address the needs thoughtfully in our budget. And, you know, there are always going to be different priorities that people have, but we want to work together with them to make sure we have a successful session. Any other comments from the media? Questions? I want to thank everyone for coming here today. Very exciting day, and we'll have more to come in the upcoming days and weeks ahead. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Get you wallet here. I'll take it.
Hey, man. See ya.
Gov. Hey, Gov. I want a picture.
Really happy. Yes, sir. Thank you. It means a lot to us.
Tell me, read about this. This is great news.
Yes, sir. We're thankful. Pour it on us.
Give her a phone.
Give us more.
Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
you, sir.
Thank you. All right, buddy.
Jennifer.